Morning and welcome to Decoding Digital. Happy Friday. I'm Leon Carvley. I'm a director here at Door 4 and I'm delighted to welcome you to our February edition of Decoding Digital. This is Revenue Optimisation Primer. I'm a director here at Door 4. We're a performance marketing agency here in the Northwest. We work with brands and businesses to grow their digital performance and grow revenue through reach, convert and scale. And today I am delighted to have three fantastic speakers with me who will be sharing their knowledge, people smarter than I, on various aspects of revenue optimization and how it can help your business. We're pleased to have them today. And I'm going to introduce our speakers. So first of all, we have Andrew Thomas, a digital transformation coach and consultant, once a captain in the British Army. He's a true digital native, having helped create digital teams within many agencies and leading brands, and is active amongst many other things, delivering coaching for a wide range of organizations, including Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Businesses, and Google Academy. I have Conrad Grimshaw, an optimization consultant here at Door 4. Conrad works with many of our clients on user research and UX implementation and projects that's improving customer experience and maximizing outcomes for those clients. Conrad will today be talking about conversion rate optimization. And last but definitely not least, Michael Brennan. Michael is an account director here at Door 4. He manages our performance relationships with our clients, overseeing our reach, convert and scale framework, and ensuring that we get the right results for our clients. Michael's experience in digital strategy, digital media acquisition, and project delivery makes him a great candidate today. And he'll be talking about reach for e-commerce. So a quick note on our running order before we get into the good stuff and hear from our fantastic speakers. Each of our three speakers will be with you for 15 to 20 minutes each. I encourage you to use the Q&A facility that's in Zoom webinar to drop any questions that you might have during the talks. We won't answer them during the actual presentations. What we'll do, we'll queue them to the end. And then what I'll do, I'll put these questions directly to our speakers. So feel free to be as brutal as you want with your questioning. I'm sure that they'll be giving you plenty of food for thought and you'll have lots to ask them. So with that, I'm going to move on to Andrew Thomas, who's going to open our proceedings for the day. Welcome to you, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Leon. Let me, I'll get my screen up.
You share your screen out. I'll jump off. Thank you very much. And I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Over the next 15 minutes or so, my aim is to convince you that revenue optimization starts long before we think about campaigns, digital channels, or conversion rates, all of which are very important and very relevant. But actually, in the first place, I think we need to think about where we put marketing within our organization. Now, what do we mean by marketing? For many of you, if you're in the world of e-commerce or maybe direct-to-consumer brands, I think you'll put marketing right there first and central. But for many, maybe we won't. And I think it's what I'm going to try and convince you today is that marketing is not just about branding or creating buzz or investing in thought leadership. Fundamentally, it's a business process that executed well drives the financial performance of your business. And senior management within your organizations should respect that. Or maybe it's your job to encourage them to respect that, because that's not always the case. As Leon said, I'm a digital transformation coach. I help organizations make the most of digital opportunity. I suppose I come from a world which is traditional marketing, but saw, I suppose, the advent of digital when I first had the first agency 20 years ago, and still work in that now. And I suppose what often, I'm faced with is when people talk about, well, digital marketing, what is that really all about? Isn't that about doing things slightly differently in the things that we did before? And I think we begin to find now that actually it's fundamentally different. But what we often get asked, and certainly when I'm working for the Google Digital Academy, I run a program. It's Brand Activation Lab. And I think that's for large organizations, should we say large traditional organizations, big brand budgets. And people often say to me, well, what about brand marketing? Brand marketing versus performance marketing. I've said that performance marketing is all that counts. And probably because what I mean is that actually there is no such thing as brand marketing or performance marketing, or in fact, trying to play one off against the other is a false dichotomy. Because I would argue that all marketing is performance marketing, and thinking about brand drives you down the route of worrying about brand awareness, whatever that means. And just being aware of something, as Leon knows, I'm very well aware of Jaguar cars. He has one. I'd never drive one. I'm not really old enough to ever to warrant one. I'm aware of them, and just sending me more brand awareness advertising is never going to work. The thing is this: all advertising is actually about driving performance, the financial performance of your business. And therefore, what we've got to think about is that if that is a false dichotomy, brand versus performers, what do we really mean by marketing? And marketing, to me, and I love this enhanced CIM definition of marketing, which is all about the stimulation, understanding, fulfillment of customer demand. And as an organization, we should not be thinking about marketing in the context of marketing communications or thought leadership or brand advertising. We should think about marketing as driving demand for our products and services. Marketing is demand creation, and that's why all marketing should be seen as performance marketing. Now, how do we drive demand? Well, clearly we can only drive demand if we can anticipate what our customers want and us being able to fulfill it at a reasonable price, better than anybody else, whereby we make a profit. And that's why I think when we start this process of performance marketing and where we are in the business, marketing needs to make sure at the top table we are defining our customer value proposition, that sweet spot where we make sure that our goods and services generate the revenue that we need or we deserve within our business. So when we strip this all back, the first thing we need to be concerned about as marketeers is making sure as a business we have created our customer value proposition in a correct and appropriate way. And this is the first thing I want to share with you this morning is how do we do that? It's maybe not something we've done before or thought about. Well, it's this. It's a value proposition canvas, and the whole process that I kind of work with people on is value proposition design, where we use a strategizer canvas, part of the business model canvas, and at the very heart of it, we're saying, what are our customer needs and wants? What jobs do they have to do? And then only when we've done that on the right-hand side, are we able then to think about our products and services where we create some value for the customers in terms of helping them overcome their pain and create some gain for them. Really, really important. But when we think about this, we think, well, how do we do that customer analysis on the right-hand side? And I would argue that we use another tool. My second favorite tool is the empathy map. And the empathy map allows us to really understand what our customers think, feel, see, and do. And I think this is arguably far more important than the concept of personas. Personas often can be lazy storyboarding, sort of sticking stereotypes onto pieces of cardboard and giving them names like Angela or Alan. Whereas really the job we should be doing is thinking about what jobs do our customers need, and then how do we build our products and services out to reflect that? Because that tends to be an inclusive process rather than an exclusive process. I'm thinking about that exclusive process leads me on to thinking about when we've done a job, when we've built a customer profile, when we've agreed our value proposition, we realize that something like a funnel is fatuous too. They don't really help you in terms of marketing. I think sales funnels are useful, but marketing funnel is just, I suppose, a bastardization of what was 100 years ago a sales tool, a sales assistance tool. And when people turn funnels on their side, it really demonstrates to me that the process doesn't work, because buying is not a linear process. We don't fill stuff in terms of hopper at the top and hope that some of our stuff, our marketing comms stuff, will stick and people will fall down at the bottom. In a digital age, particularly where there is infinite choice, finite amount of time or attention that people will put towards things, we need a significantly more sophisticated model for thinking about how we buy. Lots of people have looked at this over the last few years. McKinsey came up with a very good pretzel type idea in 2009 that talked about, far more influence for far longer in the buying process or the customer journey, rather than that simple linear slip down the funnel where you can never go back up. There's a new tool in town, new idea. It's brought to us by Google, and it talks about the purchase behavior being far more sophisticated and certainly non-linear and iterative. And they talk about this and refer to it as the messy middle. Google it. You'll find it, I think, with Google. And we talk about this exposure, let's call it brand awareness in old terms, or brand marketing, is that exposure is very much start of the journey. It triggers maybe some levels of intent that people didn't have, where then people go through a process of exploration, evaluation, and ultimately something again will trigger you to experience the brand or product and purchase. And if we think about it, that's how life is. I'd love a new car. No, I don't need a new car. I don't drive enough. Mine's fine. Oh yeah, but I don't like the color anymore. We ebb and flow in the way that we buy, and we need to understand the journey and how we actually help people through the exploration and evaluation process and engage them in experience. And actually, when we think about this, what is at the core of all this is that when we go back to our value proposition, when we think about the journey the customer takes, it is not getting people to progress through the funnel. It's about understanding intent. People have different levels of intent at different points of the journey. And our job, when we're talking about marketing in terms of driving demand, is clearly to turn the volume up on intent. And how do we do that? We do that by looking at those digital data signals that people give off. The Google search, the like, the share, the inquiry. Those, every time people are doing that, they're signaling the level of intent. And we need to make sure that our communication, our marketing communication, drives intent and moves us to a point of action, which is the revenue inflection point. Driving people to action, which is that revenue inflection point. So how do we do it? How do we get those people to spend with us? How do we do it more effectively than anybody else? Well, we've got to make sure you know what they want. You've got to know what these people want. What do customers need? What jobs have they got to do? What are their wants and desires? You then need to create a compelling offer of goods and services, more compelling than the competition. And then you have to have the capability and capacity to deliver. Now, it's interesting when you look at this, people say, well, we are customer centric, and that makes a lot of sense. To be truly marketing led, you need to be customer centric. But be careful about saying you put the customer first, because equally you need to understand what your objectives as an organization are. It's the marriage of the objectives of senior management, the corporate goals, and putting the customer really at the heart of making sure you can deliver those profitably that really, really count. So how do you know whether you're doing a good thing? How do you know whether, we are understanding what customers are looking for? we're putting performance marketing at the very heart of our organization. And actually, we're going to make money and not get fired. Well, there's probably three things. We call it the ABC of performance marketing. One, you've got to adopt a growth culture. You have to passionately believe that every ounce of marketing effort, every penny of your marketing pound is inextricably linked to the growth ambition and growth delivery for your business. You've got to believe that every element of marketing drives intent and creates demand. And thirdly, you've got to make sure that you can see the impact of that activity on the growth and on the revenue optimization with your business. And to do that, you need measurable objectives. And that's why when people talk about nebulous concepts like thought leadership or brand awareness, unless they are rooted into some form of objective setting where you can measure the results of that activity, you put yourself in a vulnerable position. So when we talk about objectives, what do I mean? Well, we could talk about SMART objectives: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, where we look at them and therefore the achievement of them with KPIs in place. And that's good. Maybe a bit analog, but it's not a bad place to start. I'm a great fan of implementing OKRs in your business as a way of making sure you're measuring performance marketing effectively. What are OKRs? OKR stands for objectives and key results. And the simple thing is that the objective is short, to the point. It's simple. We will do something, and the KR, key results, as measured by. So let's look at an example here. The objective: delight our customers. Now, based on what I was just saying, that could be quite a nebulous thing, But when we put the KRs next to that simple objective, we can begin to see that we've got, really tangible things that we can measure on an ongoing basis. Reducing revenue churn, maybe one dimension characteristic. Increasing net promoter score. Number of average weekly visits to our website. Non-paid organic traffic, maybe improving engagement. And we define engagement in this instance, for example, users a completed full profile. What we can see is that there are normally two types of OKRs. Activity-based, getting people to do something, or as we see here, value-based OKRs. So why do I think they're good? Well, it promotes agility within the business, alignment, time saving. I think we create bolder goals. We are more confident in going into the marketplace, giving people autonomy and accountability too. Interesting thing about OKRs, we don't say that they filter down a cascade from senior management. They can be done in parallel. Businesses have OKRs, marketing departments have OKRs, social media teams can have OKRs. They can be strategic and tactical. That builds a culture and a language for being more performance orientated within the business. And of course, what it can mean is that they have different cadences, yearly for an organization or quarterly, monthly for the marketing department, weekly maybe for your individual team. I just want to close by thinking a couple of final tips when we think about performance marketing, we think about objective setting, is that this, if you're a client or you work for an agency, please, please, please think about objectives. Clients don't issue agencies with a brief that have no objectives. Excuse me. Why? Because they will just run riot and perhaps maybe lack direction. Agencies don't accept briefs without objectives. Why? Because you won't know why you might be fired. You won't know why you did a good job or maybe why you did a poor job. And I think the final thing I want to leave you with is that marketing is not about creating campaigns or stuff. That's marketing communications. That stuff is output. You, if you're really good at what you do and you want to optimize the revenue within your business and be great at performance marketing, you should be thinking about outcomes. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to stay on, and hopefully that stimulated some thinking, some questions. And yeah, let's have a chat later on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Andrew. Lots of really, really wise words there. I think what I particularly enjoy there is that we're really picking apart some really dyed-in-the-wool marketing thinking and practices that really don't have much relevance in today's modern digital consumer journey. Yeah. Superb. Thanks for that. So I'm going to invite Conrad Grimshaw to join us now and jump in. Conrad is our optimization consultant here at Door 4, as I introduced him earlier on. And Conrad's going to take the reins now and talk about the conversion sprint. So just very quickly, anybody who's got questions for Andrew and any of our other speakers, please drop them in the Q&A feature. I can see that we've got some dropping in there already, and we'll tackle them all together at the end. Conrad, the floor is yours.
Hello there. Cool. So yeah, my name is Conrad. I'm the optimization consultant for Door 4. I'm just going to go through sort of an introduction to conversion rate optimization. I'm going to go through what Crow is and what the benefits are. I'm going to take you through how it's done and sort of how we do it, and basically a few examples of what success is like at the end. So yeah, we'll start off with what is Crow. So conversion rate optimization, we see it as the act of raising your conversion rate through influencing buyer behavior, creating further value from existing customers and appealing to more prospective customers. So it's basically about understanding your customers better, providing them with a better experience, helping them complete their tasks faster, and basically just simplifying everything. So what is conversion rate? A conversion is basically a general term for a visitor completing a goal on your site. So this is a goal that you want customers to reach, such as buying a product, signing up for a newsletter, filling out a form, or starting a free trial, something like that. And to work out your conversion rate, basically it's the number of conversions divided by the total number of visitors, and you times that by 100 to get your percentage. So if you had a 25% conversion rate, that means 25% of people who visited your site reached the goal or their goal. So Obama is probably the unlikely figure I'm going to use to introduce Crow. But soon after launching his bid for the White House, he gave a speech to Google about his belief in data and evidence. So that inspired the guy on the right, Dan Schroeder, who worked for Google at the time. He was brought onto Obama's campaign to introduce conversion rate optimization. He's been credited with playing a critical role in Obama's success. And basically after that, he went to launch his own Crow platform called Optimizely, which is still one of the big players. So this is what he tested. So he tested the media section and the CTA button on the campaign website, on the landing page, and we tested a number of different images and videos as the main visual aspect of the page. So we also tested a number of the CTAs in the bottom right. So it's join us now, learn more, sign up now, and sign up. So when we've tested this in workshops, lots of people have said that sign up now would be their choice. And Obama's team heavily favored the video in the frame E with the American flag on it. I haven't got time to play that right now, but it's very, very American. So the winners of the image were actually with his whole family and the Learn More CTA. So obviously that was a bit of a shock to Obama's team. Without that test, they probably would have gone with the video with the American flag. And it turns out the video was actually performed the worst out of the whole group, and both videos performed worse than the images. So, and the Learn More CTA had an 18% improvement over the original as well. So overall, they had a combination that had like a 40.6% increase in their goals of signups, and that resulted in an extra $60 million in donations. You can see the effects. Obviously, the benefits were realized, and it became easier to do through the programs available over time. So now you can use Optimizely, BWO, or Google Optimize. They're sort of the big companies which are doing Crow, and all the big players are doing it and have been doing it for a fair while. And now sort of anyone can be doing it and probably should be doing it to some level. And some of your competitors will also be doing it. So for me, just some of the benefits of running a Crow program. It's increased sales. So by only implementing winning tests, you should increase your sales, improving your decision making, by learning about your customer through conducting user research, that, which can be also used across other areas of your business. You want to lower your risk, so by continuously improving your site over a small amount of time. So rather than redesigning a new website that might not be a success or will need testing anyway. And then reduce spending. So by converting more visitors who already come to your site, you're basically lowering your acquisition costs, and you could invest those savings into driving more traffic. Nice circular motion. So I'm going to just go into sort of how it's done and how we do it at Door 4. So we follow a structured process to get the most value out of our crow tests. So from understanding the customer, deciding what to test, through to the results, and then implementing your learnings. So I've simplified it down a little bit for this purpose, but we essentially cover these steps to get the best results. So we have our research stage. This is where we do sort of our analysis of the product and the customers to gain insights. And we have our prioritize stage. This is where we gather our insights, ideas, and our recommendations and organize them based on their value. And then we have the testing. So this is where we create individual test plans for each idea we have and design different versions called variants. And then we begin the test. And then we have the learning. So that's where we have the result and review the outcomes and sort of the next steps from there. So yeah, basically you want to start off by trying to understand your customer. So by doing customer research, you'll improve your decision making for crow testing and across the business. So our research stage comprises, the following 3 elements: evaluate, quant, research, and qual. So evaluate, basically the aim is to understand the current digital experience, understand the customer, identify areas for further research from best practice and competitor research. And we usually deliver a usability assessment for this. And this will feed into our prioritization stage of our ideas. So we have the quant. So this is, the aim is to understand website performance, key journeys, user behavior, and understand what the customer is doing on our site, basically. And we would do this as a website analysis in analytics. And then we have the qual. So the aim is to understand why the customer is doing what they're doing, identifying their pain points and any blockers. And we have a user testing program that we run where we test with real users, either remotely or in-house. So depending on your business, you might not immediately want to do everything, but the more research you do for the more different areas, the more successful your ideas you'll have to test, and then the more successful your testing will be. So then we move on to the prioritize stage. So at this stage, we gather all of our ideas and our insights and start to prioritize them into effective tests. So the way we do this is will depend on your business goals, but we tend to do this in some sort of prioritization matrix. For an e-commerce client, we'll be looking to increase revenues, and we might target the test on the most popular customer journeys. And once we've organized the test ideas, we start to think about what they look like as an individual test. So this is where we come onto our test plan. So we make a test plan for each idea. This will include sort of a problem statement. So why are we testing this? A measurement criteria. So what events and what conversions are we measuring? A variant design brief. So the idea of different improvements we can make and test. Pages, devices, and channels we'll test. And we'll think about who's involved. So for some of the bigger tests, we might bring in a developer or a designer to help with the building the variants. And we'll also have a rough estimation of sort of timescales, but your time of test is basically based on the number of variants and the amount of traffic you have coming to that area of the site. So this is just a quick example of what a test is. So this is, it's a simple A/B test. So it's a controlled experiment where you compare sort of variant A against variant B to segments of users on your site. So over time, you'll find one will outperform another. The variant which gives you the highest conversion rate is the winner. So these are some of the variants. So now we've got the plan, we can sort of start designing these. So the form sometimes takes, depending on what the type of test and variants are required, it can take different forms. But some of the things we will be testing will be copy, CTA color or text, new components, pop-ups, full page designs, checkout navigation. It can be endless. Anything you can sort of measure, you can test. So the simple changes like things to copy and button colors, you should be able to implement using just the Crow software, and more complex changes where you'll have to enlist, you might have to enlist, the help of your developers, but you can pretty much test anything. In this example, we were testing, different types of CTA banners within blog posts. So then we move on to sort of learning. So these are our sort of results and our outcomes. So as the test moves on, you'll start to be able to see if any of the variants are beating the original. So once the test has ran for long enough, and once the test has reached a statistical significance, that will be your test winner. So yeah, once a winner is determined, we'll put together sort of an end of test summary, and this will summarize, which test won, what we intend to implement into the site. So it's also where we'd also recommend further value activities or alternative tests based on insights. And obviously you won't always win every test, and you'll gain some insight out of doing every test. So, at this stage is all about ensuring our insights are fed back into the research stage to provide more scope and to inform our future tests. And now I'll just quickly run through some of the simple, quick win tests we've done and had successes and failures from. So this is a test of a hero component on a home security camera website. So the test on the right chose text about a security solution over a convenience message about the app. So it's also swapped out a lifestyle image, a lamp, over a product demo image, and this led to an 89% increase in sales. We've also tested small changes over time on this landing page for a heritage sofa company. And basically the changes led to a noticeable design change, but also along with that came increased sales. On the same website, we also tested different ways of presenting the brochure. So surprisingly, the hard copy was more successful than the digital. This could have been because the product had a long buy cycle, or the clientele preferred a book version when making big purchases like this, but we had a 14% increase in session value. We then went on to test hero images to see which product led to more leads. And just by testing this image, we managed a 13% increase. And this could have been to do with sort of how readable the test is. Sorry, the text in the on the image. Some of those were blocking. And yeah, basically, as I mentioned before, you won't always win them all. And we had a 17% decrease in revenue when we tested larger sort of feature images within the product selection page. We did this to sort of highlight certain products using a double length image. But that, it just didn't work out, sadly. And this is an example of adding more rewarding, wording to a shipping banner, so that the more personalized approach had increased orders of 7%. For this site, basically we noticed that engagement with the navigation on the mobile was only at 3.5%, and that means that only 1 in 29 users were using the navigation link. So on desktop, the nav was used by 5 times as much. So we found a study that over 47% of 45 to 64-year-olds didn't understand the hamburger icon was a menu. So with that in mind, we went about making the title clearer for this. So the title was more focused on this site was more focused on usability, so people didn't call the call center. So something as simple as changing the explore text to menu increased interactions with the navigation by 57%. For this one, we ran a button color test. So this is the original, where the CTA buttons were very on brand, using the green and dark gray. We ran like an array of, which were basically tried an array of combinations and implemented the winner. And so we found that the red and white combination gave us a 21.5% increase in conversion. So this is something that differs per site, and there's no one size fits all. So it's a good starting test. So for the same website, basically a comment we kept getting from the user research was that they were finding it a bit difficult to actually find the price. So we tested adding the price in before the individual product pages, and we saw an 8% reduction in conversion. So it just goes to show that not all tests win. But we fed that back into our research, and for that certain set of customer, we might need to just tell the story a bit more before showing people the price. So taking it forward, have a look at adding a Crow program to your site, follow these steps, and have a go with some of the simple test ideas we've been going through. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Conrad. Thanks for that fantastic insight into conversion rate optimization. There's a lot there, I think, for any website owner and operator to take in. In particular, if you're looking for results, then don't take the current results that you've got for granted. You can continue to improve, continue to iterate. And I think one of the most important takeaways for me from that is that not every test delivers a positive result. Not every change actually delivers an uptick because it feels like a good idea. So sometimes you do have to test those hypotheses to ensure that they are going to deliver continual growth. So thank you very much. I'm going to move to our third speaker of the day. We've got Michael Brennan, account director here at Door 4. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Michael's going to talk reach for e-commerce today. And without further ado, take it away.
Conrad, if you could come off your screen, please, mate. I'll pull mine up. Thank you. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Leon. Hello, everybody. I'm Michael. I'm account director at Door 4. So I'm going to be discussing reach and how we can acquire more customers and drive sales. And that applies for online sales, but it can also be lead generation, and it equally applies to both. So there's going to be some crossovers with what Andrew went through earlier. So it was a really good presentation, but in particular, some of the areas that I'll be looking at is looking at those digital signals, how we can pick up on the signals that we give out to consumers, and we can measure what level of intent our consumers are showing and give them the right messaging to suit that, to tap into that and to drive that performance. So first of all, to give you some context, Reach, Convert and Scale is Door 4's performance programs. We use this with businesses we work with as part of our overall sort of revenue optimization services. So Reach is about getting in front of people and vying for a share of their attention, triggering that intent, getting them to the outcomes that you want. Convert is really, once that attention has been captured, maximizing that value, turning that into sales and customers. But there it's also about retaining those customers, increasing order values, repeat purchase rates, maximizing customer lifetime value, all that type of thing. And obviously what Conrad's just gone through in the Crow program is a big part of that, but not the only area. And finally, Scale is about building out digital capabilities so that our clients have the technology in place so that they can break down any barriers to growth and enable those conversions, and also expand into new markets, new territories, new channels, and so on. So reach is essentially where we want to capture audience attention, vie for that attention and grab it. And that involves many aspects of marketing, from branding, creative, PR, social media, digital advertising, and it all contributes to us driving that performance and meeting our objectives. So we want to get our message, our products and services in front of our target audience. But more than that, so we know that high quality content is hugely important, but more than that, it's really important to get the right content in front of our audience at the right time, according to their intent level and their mindset at the time. So we want to give them the right message at the right time in the right place. So context is God, if you will. So moving on, this is looking at a model that's been around for some time now, Google's See, Think, Do, Care model. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. So this is very much about understanding how intent and context plays an important part of marketing. So we can recognize what consideration stage our audience is in and what level of intent they're showing at any given moment. So at the C stage, we're thinking of our largest addressable audience here, all people who might in future become customers, but they're showing no signs of intent, and they're not looking to buy or sign up or purchase it right at that point. At the think stage, there is a level of consideration. So they're considering our proposition, whatever that might be, or products that we offer. At the do stage, so our potential customers are ready to buy now. They're in that moment, they're showing a high degree of intent. And finally, our existing loyal customers can be said to be in the care stage. So in summary, at first glance, that might just feel like or appear like a different way of showing the old marketing funnel. Like Andrew was saying, that linear journey from awareness, throwing people in the top and funneling them down. What's really important here is that this shouldn't be seen as a linear journey. As consumers, we jump in and out of these stages in moments, many moments, digital touch points throughout the day and over a long span of time. So you might be in market 1 minute. So I've been in market for a car for a couple of months maybe, but not throughout in that time. I was looking at it last night, but then I forget about it, and I've probably not looked at it for a couple of months. When I'm actually triggered to do that, I don't know when that's going to be. There's so many factors and micro moments that play the part in that kind of journey. Equally, loyal customers can be brought back into that consideration stage for upsells and consideration. So we jump around these stages as digital consumers. It's not a linear, standard, straightforward process. So once we know that, how do we identify what moment our audience is in and target them accordingly? So this is where we need to think about data signals and targeting. So as consumers, as I say, we're giving out hundreds of signals in all sorts of ways every day. So these could be categorized into audience, environmental, and media signals. As marketers, we can use these signals to identify and target our audience and make sure we're giving them the right content for that moment. So in audience targeting, that might include demographics, age and gender, what likes, social behavior, interests they're demonstrating, maybe an affinity segment, so users who've shown an interest in a given topic over time. In market segments, when you can identify that someone's looking to purchase right there and then. And also similar and lookalike audiences. So building out typically from your existing customer base, identifying people that meet their demographics and share similar interests and likes. On the environmental side, that could be what device they're using, where they are, the physical location, what events are happening nearby, the weather, the time of day. All this type of stuff can help us to make sure that our content is served in the right context and it's more relevant for the user or consumer. And media is about what content they're consuming, either at the time, right there and then, as we're serving and trying to interject into that journey, that time, or over time, what our customers consume can give us big signals about their profiles and where they fit and help us to shape our messaging accordingly. So I'll quickly run through a sort of indicative example of how we might apply this in practice. So for each consideration stage, see, think, do, care, we'll consider what data signals we might pick up on, how we might target the audience in that specific moment, what messaging and channels we can use to do this, and importantly, how we're going to measure that effectiveness and know if we're doing a good job. So our audience in the C consideration stage, in this example, it might be all active adults in the UK. So that's really broad. They're not looking to buy at the moment, but they fit that profile of our addressable audience. So we can easily pick up on demographics and geography. So if we're just selling in the UK, in this case, that's really easy to define, but equally if it's within specific postcodes or within a radius of your store, or just a service area that you service, it's really easy to target that and exclude those that aren't relevant. Gender, in this case, we might not be excluding either or gender, assuming that we sell men's and women's footwear, but it will help us to make sure that we're getting the right content in there in the right context. It can help us in that regard. Via media usage, we can identify those active adults through loads of signals that people are giving out from the content that they consume, that they fit that kind of profile. So that might be looking at health and fitness buffs is one of the kind of off-the-shelf Google affinity segments that would fit the bill here. Similar audiences, again, like we mentioned earlier. And so at this point, they're not looking to buy right now, but our objective and our content needs to be about grabbing their attention. So it needs to be interesting, inspirational, engaging content. But most importantly, we need to trigger that intent. That's what we're trying to do here, is to wake them up. You know, they fit the overall bill, but we need to get them into that consideration stage and moving them on and driving that performance. And the nature of this is quite broad at this stage, so it might be more suited to video, display, rather than some more sort of direct response tactics. And the KPIs we're after is engagement. So getting in front of people, getting that engagement, the video views, getting them to the website, what the kind of metrics that we might look at there. So then in the think stage, so our customers now are beginning to, they might be considering our product specifically or researching around the topic, giving it some level of consideration. So we need to react to that, recognize it first of all, and then give them the right content and the right triggers to push them on to purchase from here. So we can tap in, again, looking at what type of content that they're engaging with, what type of search terms, if they're looking for sort of research or related content around our products. We can quite easily see that they're in that mindset at that specific moment. So that might be looking at in-market audiences, specific audience lists, or people that have engaged or viewed our content that has that. It might be reviews or comparisons or informational content around our products. Those people that have engaged with that, then that's giving us a good signal that they're in this kind of mindset. So at this point, we want to be introducing our products and our USPs and making clear what it is that makes us stand out. Because we want to be driving them through into purchase and trying to sort of wrench them out of that soft consideration into a hard decision. And so retargeting to those relevant people could play a part, various different channels you could use to implement that message. And again, we're looking for engagement, but it's a deeper level of engagement at this point. We want consideration, we want further purchase, we want to drive them into our objectives. Then do probably the most important stage, of course. At this point, our customers are looking to buy. They want to buy right now. They might be sat on the couch, on the desktop, at a physical store, wherever that might be, but they're in that mindset that they're looking to purchase and to engage right at that point. So here, website analytics can be really, our own website analytics could really help us here. So yeah, users that view product pages obviously shows a level of intent, but more than that, things like if people look at your delivery times or your returns info and reviews, that type of stuff, then they're giving out massive signals that they're ready to buy right at that point. So you've got to focus on getting them over that line. Equally, abandoned carts. If someone started the purchase journey and abandoned it, then you know that right there and then they're in that mindset. But as every hour goes by after that, they're likely to slip out of that and maybe disappear off into those other sort of consideration stages. Paid search is really important here too, because we can really tap into it. If we know that it's an explicit search term, someone's already looking for your products and services right there and then that's a real hot audience that we can tap into. And at this point, we want to be getting across our pricing. We want them to sign up ultimately. So pricing, it might be promotions and offers, discounts if that's applicable here, but also assurance and trust factors and why they should, sort of removing any doubts and barriers to purchase at that point. Paid search, retargeting. If it's an e-commerce store that you're talking about, then shopping ads, marketplaces are absolutely the right time to hit this audience. And we want to drive revenue ultimately there. Transactions, average order values, conversion rates, getting that result right there and then. And finally, our customers, our loyal customers here, so they're not necessarily showing intent, but at this point we know a lot. Typically, you know a lot more about your customers once they're signed up and you've got them on board. So we can really use that to our advantage to show them timely, relevant, personalised, suitable messaging to help drive upsells and cross-sells to typically or repeat purchases, get them coming back, renewals, whatever that might be, to increase that customer lifetime value. So email marketing clearly is really important there. Retargeting, SMS might be suitable in some instances. About driving that long lifetime value. Finally, then, just to finish, where would you start with this? Well, clearly you start where that high intent is, where you can tap into customers that are looking to buy now. You don't need to start like, it's not like Andrew said, we're not just looking for awareness and getting our name out there. That's not a business objective. That's not enough. We need to be driving performance. So start to do those people that are already looking for the product or service right there, and then tap into that and maximize that as much as you can. And then equally, existing customers are often untapped and underutilized, and that can be a good source of value. And once you've sort of exhausted that, then you can begin to widen out and think about that full sort of marketing mix as you need to, and where it plays its part in the different stages. So thank you. Hopefully that was helpful. Let us know if you've got any questions. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much for that, Michael. Fantastic content, and I think that segued really neatly into Andrew's piece of content and Conrad. I'm going to invite Andrew and Conrad to jump back into video if they can. And what we'll do, we'll go to some questions. I have one, I think. First of all, I'm going to just throw a question over to Conrad first of all, if that's all right. Because Michael, you finished off there with where do we start with our reach campaign? You know, for those members of the audience that aren't necessarily as au fait, and I think, what are the first steps? So Conrad, with conversion rate optimization, obviously there's quite a lot to take in. There's quite a lot of activity required there to really start to make inroads in improving the performance of websites. So where and when does somebody start conversion rate optimization? Certainly with, let's say, with a newer website, a newer property.
Yeah, I suppose if your business is attracting, customers, visitors to your site already, then you should be taking, Crow into consideration now. So there's basically, lots of people who just focus on driving traffic to the site, but don't think about what users are doing when they get there. So the best part about Crow is that you're increasing revenue from customers who you've either paid to already come to your site or are coming anyway organically. And if you don't have lots of traffic, and there's still, you can still start, doing Crow stuff. You'll test bigger ideas, but test bigger changes, reduce the amount of variation. So maybe just test one or two. And then you can basically just target your high traffic pages as well, just to make sure you're getting some results.
Super.
I was going to say that I think it's absolutely right. It comes back, both Michael and Conrad are saying, look, you've got to understand what you want people to do on your website. What is the goal? And that sweet spot is if their goal and your goal marries up, fantastic, you'll have great conversion. So if you don't understand what it is you want people to do and what they want to do, how can you go through that optimization process? And as we say, it starts big and it becomes really focused, and everything is a part to play in that, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it fits. I think a lot of that fits into original project briefing as well. And when you actually engage and create a website project, all too often we've heard just make something basic, just keep it really simple. But really, that performance aspect has to be drilled in from the beginning. The user's intent has to be understood. The outcomes have to be part of that process for that project ever to deliver value.
Yeah, and he said again, goes right back to what I was saying about objectives. If somebody says to you, well, what do you want people to achieve? Who are these visitors, and what are their goals, and what would you like us to help them achieve? Can't answer those questions. It's kind of, well, come back in a week.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a good place to start with Crow is with the data. So you've got to be able to measure those objectives and how many people are converted in the first place. Make sure that you've got a good baseline of insight into what people are doing and where the drop-offs are. Because often we'll look at e-commerce is the easy sort of example to give, where you've got the checkout funnel, checkout process. You see a specific drop-off at one point, then straight away that's where you start. There's revenue to be had there that you're missing out on, loss that's there that you can be eradicated. So starting with the clear data is probably a good idea on Crow.
Brilliant, thanks. I'll move on to the next question. This is from Daryl, the Professional Nursery Kitchen. So it's quite a long question. I won't read out the whole question, but essentially what Daryl is suggesting that only a small proportion of buyers believe that the thought leadership content produced by brands really is of any quality and impact the decisions, whereas a high proportion of people believe that content can enhance perceptions. So like Andrew said, marketing should drive business. What's your thought on, essentially, what's the quality and the impact of thought leadership content on buying decisions, Andrew?
Well, I think it's a really good question, and actually, when you look at how it's been phrased as well, is to say most people don't value what's being delivered, but actually see the context or the concept of it as being very valuable. And this comes right back to what Michael's point is, to say, look, you've got to understand that everything that we do is part of a journey, and the do bit of it is the end of it, and that's, as you say, what we're talking about today is almost the easy end, e-commerce, direct to consumer, here's this ASICS runner, size 9, what's the best price? But, we've gone a long way to get to that. I should do more running. I want to get fit in January. Do I have the right kit? I need new trainers. What's the latest trainers? What are reviewed well? What's right for me? Or I'm a bit of a heavier guy. So, all that's part of a purchase decision making. Now, the thing about thought leadership content is that, we're not really, you do it because you want to be seen as a thought leader. Basically, the consumers, pardon my French, couldn't give a flying fuck. Really, it's about, is there something in this value exchange of knowledge in there for me? Is this kind of helping me make that purchase decision? So context, to Michael's point, is absolutely key. When are you creating this content? What need is it matching? If there's a marry up in terms of the sweet spot, there's some value exchange, that's interesting. These are the top 5 trainers this year. I look at those and see whether they're right for my gait or wide foot or whatever. And you can talk about, and if you're producing content around how to choose trainers if you have wide feet, you are moving people along the intent curve. So rather than producing content that makes you look like a thought leader, how do you think about creating content that informs people, that helps them along the journey? And as we see, from this, that's the type of stuff people want. It's not all about you. It's not all about you being a thought leader. Think about your customers.
I agree. And I think another factor that we see in the agency industry, looking at what brands often do, it's creating that content maybe for the wrong reason. So, Michael, we talked about search earlier, and 20 years of search engine optimization have led to a fascination with keywords and creating content that contains keywords, so that a consumer will stumble across our content. But to your point, Andrew, if that content that they stumble across isn't helpful, doesn't push them further down that decision-making process, then it might as well just be BuzzFeed clickbait. In your example, 27 things you didn't know about ASICS gel Kion or trainers. Well, great. Doesn't help me. I stumbled across it. I might have seen your brand. Does that contribute to my buying decision? No. So what are Adidas doing? What do Innovate do in that space? So we have another question from Davina Wrigley. If your audience is a much older demographic, 60 to 90 plus, should you be doing anything different from normal site optimization or marketing campaigns? Do any of my panelists have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, make the type size bigger.
Accessibility.
It's a good question.
Yeah,
accessibility, absolutely.
Yeah,
is key. Yeah. Absolutely, it's important. Contrast, clear sight. Eyesight plays a part. I think we shouldn't fall into an easy stereotype to think that people over 60 aren't digital consumers. I think I was reading, I think it was an ONS statistic that said over 50% of over 65s purchase online regularly. So, and that's included right over 65s as well. So let's not think that people over 65 aren't digital consumers these days. But that said, yeah, of course you should speak to people differently. Of that, you're going to speak to those differently than you'll speak to teenagers, rightly so, because you need that context. You need to understand your customer and their interests and queries and goals are going to be different to a younger audience. So absolutely, you need to treat them differently. But the general approach of considering that and giving them the right content absolutely applies. And
I think that's right, Michael. You know, clearly it starts with who are they, what jobs have they got to do, what are their problems, and their problems are different, and some of them will be age related. But don't treat them like idiots, because they're the ones with all the money. You know, we talk about coming out of the pandemic. It always was boomers went into the pandemic with all the cash, and they've certainly come out of the pandemic with all the cash. So certainly don't patronize them. And yes, you know, they are buying that, but they probably sometimes need more reassurance, sometimes need a simpler, they have a simpler journey. Maybe they need fewer choices, maybe they need more recommendations. I think about, you know, they have probably had the longest journey through the period of the 60s and beyond in terms of, you know, modern marketing, whatever that might be. So they're no fools, but help them, and they will. Great customer service. You know, they will buy for sure.
I sort of think it comes back to the sort of having a research stage with them, and just trying to figure out why they're coming to your site and how they want to use it. Obviously, a lot of it's will be based around usability and how because they'll go on lots of the bigger sites who are quite established already and make loads of purchases. So it's just about making your site, you know, better and simple to use.
Yeah. And I think that to your point there, Conrad, I think that shows, regardless of the age range of the gender, it's that research that avoids us using prejudice to believe that a certain proportion of the population, whether that's people that are over 60, whether it's males below 20, whether it's people in Estonia or Egypt or Brazil, behave differently. We have to research and get the understanding of that specific market and what their needs are, and those people that will be the customers, their needs are, rather than necessarily trying to build up a persona-based profile of what that market looks like and what those maybe broad sweeping definitions of those people are, because they don't really exist. Yeah. There's no such thing as
I don't think they're helpful. And because, again, coming back to, you know, Michael's point when he talked about the customer journey for the running shoe, you know, the fact is that the minute you say they're 40 plus, you've excluded everybody who's 39 and 38 and 37. And the fact is that if they buy into your brand, feel they have a need for it, you should be inclusive. And that's why personas are exclude people. You know, building customer empathy maps and looking at signals actually is an inclusive process. And ultimately, that way of thinking drives growth, drives revenue, and at the very top level drives sales, that then and then all the CRO and all the other work later on drives your profit.
Yeah,
very good.
I think
sorry, Michael.
I think as Conrad said, understanding the user and doing that research is really important, because we've seen a number of clients sort of assume what their customer base is and think that they know it, and they often think that they're older. That may not be the case here, but we've seen that they assume it's an older audience, maybe because they get more phone calls from the older audience. They need more support. They talk to them more in customer service. But actually, when you do the full research, you find that that's not always the case. There are different people within that with different needs and different users. So be sure that that's your audience first of all, and then sort of react to them and give them content.
I think equally there is a point there where the buyer in your market space may not be your end consumer. So the product that you're creating, baby food is probably an example I would jump to. A 1-year-old has never gone out to a supermarket and purchased baby food, but the 1-year-olds consume the baby food. So do you market your product and do you build campaigns based around your end consumer or the people that influence and manage the purchase journey? It's the parents that you sell baby food to, isn't it? Of course.
So, I've not seen any babies complete any consumer surveys. And generally, their Trustpilot reviews are a bit incomprehensible as well, too.
Fantastic. I think we've got probably just time for one last one. Probably a quick question for Michael, really, given a lot of our audience member attendees today are from lead generation businesses that aren't strictly e-commerce businesses. So just to make sure they get something really out of the content that you talked about, you know, what do you and the other panelists maybe think are the key differences between reach strategy for e-commerce and a reach strategy for lead gen businesses? What are the key takeaways there?
Yeah, it's a good point. So it's often easier to sort of run through that whistle-stop tour and think about e-commerce and really choose by there and then. But of course, there's more complex journeys, and lead generation typically is a longer process. The same approach can absolutely be applied of understanding your customer, understanding what moment they're in, and speaking to them the right way accordingly. That absolutely applies, but there are differences, of course. So typically that sales cycle, if you will, it can be longer in lead generation, B2B type engagements. So it might be that you in the think or the see moments that you need to work harder there, especially in niche markets where you might exhaust the do. There might not be many people looking for your service right there and then that you can easily identify. So you have to think more broadly about giving them relevant content. Also, you might try to get them on board, to get them engaged, to get their data essentially, but to engage them earlier in that process as well. If it is a long cycle that needs nurturing, that lead nurturing, then you need to talk to them when they're giving it that early consideration, to lead them down that route. But in terms of the conversion rate optimization, the different stages, getting them triggering that intent, and that still applies. It might just be a bit of a broader way of looking at it.
And I would add to that, I'd agree with what Michael said. The other thing as well is between, I suppose, pure e-commerce and lead generation is think about cost per acquisition, okay? In an e-commerce world, it's very easy to say, I've spent so much per click, I can see what my conversion rate is, it's achieved my goal, or I need to pay more or pay less to get there, because it's one thing. Of course, on traditional lead gen, the reality of it is that, to Michael's point, you've got those various phases, see, think, do, care. You're probably going to have to spend more in your budget in terms of see and think. And also you've got to look at a broader cost per acquisition, and also the other stages post the digital side of things as well. And also make sure that's built in terms of lifetime value as well, if it's a service or subscription-based business as well. So again, think about that from a budget and the CPA and budget allocation and a CPA perspective as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point with lead generation. That's often part of our conversations, is figuring out the cost per acquisition and the cost per lead. What are you willing to pay for a lead, but what is that lead worth? I mean, it's not just the sale right there and then, because that's really easy in e-commerce usually. You just know your profit margins, or you should. Not everyone does. But what's a lead worth? How much are you how many of them are you gonna lead onto sales? What's that customer lifetime value gonna be? How can you increase that? If you do increase it, what's that worth to you? Looking at that full sort of measurement plan and what it's all worth is really important, especially in lead gen. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that brings us to a close. Do any of my panelists have anything final that they want to add? I think we've covered quite a lot. No, brilliant. Right. Well, thank you very much to Andrew, to Conrad and Michael for joining us today. Thanks to all of our attendees. We've got a fantastic group there. The recording for the event will be live on the Door 4 website early next week. And we will be sending invitations to our next event, which will be early in April. So thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for giving us your time. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
For attending today.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.